There is a small but rapidly growing traditionalist Anabaptist group
that separates themselves from the rest of the world, living in isolated communities called Bruderhofs.
Founded in the 1920s,
the Bruderhof, or Bruderhof communities, is now made up of over 3,000 members across 26 communities in several countries. Their growth can be attributed to their Christian traditionalism and pronatalist belief of having large families. As we will see, this self-proclaimed Anabaptist group follows each Anabaptist principle to a T. But most interesting of all is the Bruderhof's practice of a community of goods, where all money generated from Bruderhof businesses and workers is pooled together, just like that of the Hutterites.
But to understand their beliefs and their current way of life, we have to go back to the 1500s.
If you've watched any of my other previous videos, you will know that the Protestant Reformation was triggered by Martin Luther in 1517, when he nailed his 95 Theses to the door of Wittenberg's Castle Church in Germany. Luther opposed the Catholic clergy's selling of indulgences, opposed the idea of an infallible pope, disagreed with the view that only Catholic priests should be allowed to read and interpret the Bible, among many other disagreements. Luther's points of disagreement with the Catholic Church divided Western Christendom into two, the Reformers and the Catholics.
However, some Reformers begin to feel that Martin Luther, Zwingli,
and the other Reformers were not going far enough in their reforms.
They believed that more was needed than what was currently being done.
And this group of reformers began to become known as the Radical Reformers, or the Anabaptists. They believed in Luther's reforms, but in addition believed in an adult believer's baptism, the separation of church and state, a voluntary believer's church, separation from the degenerate, ungodly world, among other beliefs and practices.
But even among the Anabaptists, there were differences of opinion.
The founder of the Mennonites, Menno Simons, had a lot of agreements with the founder of the Hutterites, Jakob Hutter, but they also had their disagreements, which kept them as distinct groups. And a big point of difference was the concept of a community of goods. Many Anabaptists, including Menno Simons, did not believe in an explicit community of goods.
But Jakob Hutter and the Hutterites deeply believed
in the importance of having a voluntary commune, where all property is held in common, like that of the apostles during the earliest days of the church.
Fast forward to the 1920s, a Protestant theologian
named Eberhard Arnold had deeply researched Protestantism, the German youth movement, the Anabaptist movement, and had become a particular admirer of the Hutterites.
In the year 1920, Eberhard sold his house
and moved his wife and 5 children into a rental house in Zannertz, Germany. Here he founded a Christian community and allowed anyone who wished to join. The community ran a farm and a publishing house, and they kept all the property in common.
The new Christian community was named Bruderhof, which means literally place of brothers.
Eberhard got the name from the early Hutterites, who, starting in Moravia in the 1500s, began calling their colonies Bruderhofs. Eberhard also used the Hutterites' community of goods as a model for the Bruderhof's community of goods.
And as the Bruderhof communities grew, Eberhard discovered, to his amazement,
that the Hutterites still existed in North America. He had been under the impression that the Hutterites had gone extinct.
In 1928, Eberhard began corresponding with the Hutterites,
hoping to merge the Bruderhof and the Hutterian Brethren over their similar beliefs. In 1930, Eberhard's desire came true.
He traveled to North America and was ordained as a Hutterite minister.
And beginning in 1930, the Bruderhof joined in fellowship with the Hutterian Brethren, becoming Hutterite. Although both groups would retain unique distinctions, the Bruderhof and the Hutterian Brethren were now one in fellowship.
The two groups would remain together until their ultimate split in 1995.
Today, the Bruderhof have 26 communities across the United States, the United Kingdom, Germany, Australia, and Paraguay. The most fundamental belief of the Bruderhof is the necessity to emulate the early Christian church, as described in the book of Acts, where all the believers were of one heart and mind, and no one felt what he owned was his own. Everyone was sharing. In accordance with the Anabaptist practice of separation, the Bruderhof members live in Bruderhof communities. Communities can vary between a small village on a farm to a single townhouse in the city. The Bruderhof believes that a life in church community is the best way to live out Jesus' teachings. It is His Spirit that calls believers to a life of love where work, worship, mission, education, and family life are brought together into a single whole. We are convinced that such a life in a church community is the greatest service we can render humanity and the best way we can proclaim Christ.
Everyone in each community holds all their property in common.
Members do not get paid for their work, but all the workers and Bruderhof businesses pool their money, which is then used to provide each member with housing, transportation, education, medical care, food, and clothing.
And the pooled money is also used for various outreach programs.
Most communities have a school, a kindergarten, a communal kitchen, a nursery, workshops, and offices. Each community worships together, where there is singing and prayer. Each community also eats one meal together a day. The Bruderhof believe that the family is sacred and is the basic unit of church community. The Bruderhof believes in the importance of a lifelong faithfulness in marriage, and that marriage is the lifelong union between one man and one woman. They believe that sexual love should only be shared in such a marriage relationship. The Bruderhof have even gone so far as to host marriage events, which promote marriage between one man and one woman.
The Bruderhof has hosted such events in the United States and in the UK.
The Bruderhof believes that promoting homosexual relationships is to deny God's order and intent. The Bruderhof believe in the Anabaptist principle of nonconformity to the world. This can be seen in the Bruderhof dress code, where men wear plain clothes and women wear dresses and a head covering, in accordance with 1 Corinthians 11.
The Bruderhof believe that baptism is a confession of faith
and a pledge to follow Jesus, which can only be done when they are older and have the capacity to understand the meaning of the confession.
They practice an adult believer's baptism and completely reject infant baptism.
Before a baptism is carried out in our church community, the candidate proclaims his or her faith in Jesus and affirms all the points of the Christian faith, as stated in the Apostles' and Nicene creeds. There is no preference on the method of baptism. Whether it's immersion or pouring, they believe is not important. What is important to them is the fact that baptism is the intervention of God to fully cleanse, forgive, and heal the one baptized. Members must not watch television or use the internet inside their homes. However, outside the home, internet usage is permitted.
The Bruderhof communities are a peacemaking church and reject all military conscription. The Bruderhof communities affirm the Nicene Creed and the Apostles' Creed. A belief that the Bruderhof hold that I find particularly admirable is their opposition to all forms of gossip,
believing it is therefore out of the question for someone in our community to hold something against a brother or sister or to talk behind his or her back. Relationships within and to the church community are spiritual bonds based on trust and on the readiness to forgive again and again. If you are interested in learning more about the Bruderhof, they do have 2 official websites, which I have linked to down in the description below.
If you liked this video, then you will probably
enjoy some of my other videos on the Anabaptists, so be sure to check out my YouTube channel.
Also, I ask that you please consider supporting my work on Patreon,
where you can reach out to me, and where all my videos are ad-free. Whether you pledge $1, $10, or whatever you can spare, it really does help me to cover the costs that go into making these videos.